monitoring seedlings' health, signs of growth, and troubleshooting tips. Hey, welcome back to Eco Alchemy. I'm Pete, and today we're talking about something a lot of people overlook: airflow. You've got your seedlings growing under the perfect lights, you're watering them just right, but are they getting the air circulation they need? A lot of people don't realize how important airflow is for seedlings. It's not just about keeping them cool. Air circulation actually helps plants grow stronger by mimicking natural conditions. In nature, seedlings have to deal with wind. Every time the wind blows, the stems flex and strengthen. That's why outdoor-grown seedlings tend to be sturdier. Indoors, though, there's no wind. If we don't create movement, our seedlings grow weak and spindly. A lack of airflow also creates the perfect environment for damping off, a disease that can wipe out an entire tray of seedlings in a day. If you've ever had seedlings that suddenly shriveled up and died at the base, that's probably what happened. So how do we fix this? The easiest way is to use a small fan. I always keep a little oscillating fan near my seedlings, set on the lowest setting. You don't want to blast them, just enough to make them wiggle a little. That movement tells the plant to toughen up. It helps them develop thicker, sturdier stems so that when they're ready to be transplanted, they don't flop over at the first breeze. If you don't have a fan, here's a little trick. Brush your hand over your seedlings a couple of times a day. Sounds silly, but it works. That little bit of movement toughens them up just like wind would. Spacing is also important. If your seedlings are packed in too tight, air can't move between them. That's when mold and fungus start to show up. You might see fuzzy white growth on the soil. That's a sign you need better airflow. I always thin out my seedlings as they grow, and if some are getting too crowded, I'll spread them out into larger trays. It's tempting to let them all grow, but trust me, overcrowded seedlings don't do well in the long run. Another easy way to improve airflow is to crack a window during the day if the temperature allows. A little fresh air can make a huge difference, but just be careful of cold drafts. Sudden temperature drops can stress seedlings. If you're dealing with high humidity, that's another sign airflow is lacking. Too much moisture in the air can cause rot, mold, and all sorts of issues. A simple hygrometer can tell you if your humidity is too high. If I notice humidity creeping up, I'll adjust my fan or open the grow tent flaps for a bit. If needed, I'll even set up a small dehumidifier nearby to keep things balanced. One thing I always check for is yellowing leaves or weak growth, because those can be signs that my airflow isn't where it should be. When airflow is done right, your seedlings stay compact, strong, and healthy. They develop nice sturdy stems instead of stretching out thin and weak. If you're starting a lot of seeds, keep in mind that as they grow, they'll need more air movement. What worked when they were tiny might not be enough as they fill out their trays. I like to raise my fan slightly as my plants get taller, so they all get an even amount of air circulation. If you're growing in a small space like a grow tent, airflow is even more critical. Stagnant air in a closed space can lead to all sorts of problems, so I always run at least one small fan inside my tent. I also make sure to rotate my trays every few days so that all sides of the seedlings get equal exposure to airflow and light. Another trick is to keep your fan moving instead of aiming it directly at the seedlings. An oscillating fan is great for this because it gently shifts the airflow around instead of blasting one spot. If your seedlings look wilted or stressed, it's possible your fan is too strong. Airflow should be gentle, like a breeze, not a windstorm. I keep my fan on during the daytime hours and shut it off at night to mimic outdoor conditions. Plants don't get constant wind in nature, so I try to replicate that pattern. Now, if you're growing on a windowsill, airflow is even trickier. Most windows don't have much movement, so be sure to turn your trays daily and consider a small desk fan nearby. A good test is to watch how your seedlings move. If they barely move at all, they might need more airflow. If they're swaying too much, turn the fan down or move it farther away. I learned this lesson the hard way when I first started seedlings indoors. I lost a whole tray to damping off because I didn't think about airflow. Now, I never start seeds without a fan running. It's one of those things that once you realize how important it is, you'll never go without it again. If you're still dealing with mold or fungus, try adding a thin layer of vermiculite or sand on top of your seed trays. It helps absorb excess moisture. Another thing that helps is bottom watering instead of overhead watering. Keeps the top layer of soil dry, which means less chance of mold. At this point, my seedlings are getting stronger every day, and the airflow plays a huge role in that. I check on them daily, making sure they're getting just enough movement without stress. If you're growing seedlings for transplanting outdoors, airflow is also a key part of hardening them off. They'll need to be exposed to wind before they go outside full-time. When I move my seedlings outdoors, I always start them in a sheltered spot with some wind exposure so they can gradually adjust. But we'll talk more about hardening off seedlings in a future episode. For now, just focus on getting that air moving and keeping your seedlings healthy and strong. If you've got a fan running, or if you have any tricks of your own for keeping seedlings strong, drop a comment below. And of course, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. That's it for today. Thanks for hanging out with me on Eco Alchemy. See you next time.